Hey everybody, another Q&A with Dr. J. Dunn from My Happy Genes and GC. It says Gregory Ann, I should change that. So today we're talking about something else dangerous. Last week, if you missed it, we talked about dangerous excitotoxins, and this week we are talking about the dangers of superoxide and peroxynitrates in your system. It sounds really awful. Tell
Yeah.
us about it, Jay.
Wow. So those are free radicals. If you know that term, free
Yeah.
radicals, they can do damage to our cells, but they're naturally produced in our body and produced from nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is another chemical. It's also a neurotransmitter and it's part of our immune system. And so it can be broken down in something called our inducible nitric oxide system. Our body produces nitric oxide to fight an infection. And so if you get a virus or a bacteria or parasites even, the body's going to mobilize, make a bunch of nitric oxide, and then turn it into peroxynitrite and superoxide. And those are directly antiviral, directly antiparasitic, and antibacterial. So it's the first line of defense, along with our T cells that we've talked about with the vitamin D receptor. But this is a big part of our immune system. So if you have genetic variants in, first of all, in your ability to make nitric oxide, and we make it out of things like beets and green leafy vegetables. Beets is like the number one source of nitric oxide. And those nitrites are converted in your mouth and then in your stomach. The good flora in your mouth, good flora in your stomach. Those people that are using a lot of mouthwash are actually killing your good flora in your mouth
Oh no.
and can inhibit the production of nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is one of the things that dilates blood vessels and lowers your blood pressure, increases neuron communication in the brain, but also part of the immune system. And then if we have a sterile gut, let's say you've taken antibiotics, you're probably not going to make a lot of nitric oxide. That's a whole nother topic. But then that breaks down into superoxide and peroxynitrite. Let me show you on my chart and bring this home a little bit. So up here's the nitric oxide synthase enzyme, and you can have a genetic variant there, which will slow down your production of NO, which is nitric oxide. But then that breaks down into peroxynitrite and superoxide here. And if you have a genetic variant in the SOD gene and it's moving slowly, it's not going to break down these highly inflammatory molecules. They were created to fight an infection, but they're also damaging. If they stay in your system too long, they're going to cause a problem. And if you've got a genetic variant there, high risk of inflammation in the body. And these things hanging out way too long. And you can see this points over here to neuron damage, and they can damage neurons. And then the second variant that we look at is this one, the catalase enzyme. If you have a genetic variant there, then you don't break down hydrogen peroxide very well. And hydrogen peroxide is even more potent as a free radical molecule, which turns into the most potent down here, the hydroxyl free radical. So these genetic variants in these two specifically can lead to a higher risk of cancer and heart disease and inflammation of all kinds. And so we want to get those upregulated. And again, we use nutrients to kind of upregulate those genetic variants if you have them. I had a patient recently that had a really bad lung situation, fibrotic, pulmonary fibrosis was the diagnosis. And we got her genes tested, and she had four genetic variants in the SOD gene. So she was highly inflamed by all of these molecules, NF-kappa B being a really inflammatory molecule in the system. And we started her on a pretty high dose of the nutrient that balances out that gene, and it's made a huge difference. Brought her back from the brink of death, essentially,
Hmm.
and she's doing really well. But it was like, oh wow, this makes so much sense when you look up what that gene does. And that'll lead us to another topic. I'd like to cover, GC, the topic of how you do your own research in understanding your genetic report, how to go in deeper and figure these things out. Because it's really fun. It's nerdy, but it's fascinating.
It really is fascinating. Now, I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of talk about taking supplements to increase your NO, your nitric oxide in the
Right.
body.
Yeah.
Is that another one of those things where everybody can benefit, or it's hurting some people and it's doing well for somebody else?
Yeah, very much. So if you take a bunch of nitric oxide support and you've got a genetic variant down here in this SOD, you're creating a bunch of inflammation.
Wow.
You just did shot yourself in the foot.
Hmm.
It's really important to know whether or not you have that variant, because as beneficial as nitric oxide is, the breakdown of the ingredients in it are very dangerous if you can't get them out.
Somebody just pitched me to be on my podcast who started a company that makes intravenous supplementation. And I wrote back and I said, thanks, but I don't believe in the everybody could benefit from infused C or NO or whatever. And she wrote back and said, I think you're missing some of the science that proves that these things can be beneficial for everybody. And I said, quite frankly, I think you're missing some of the science that says genetics wouldn't agree with you. And that was the last I heard of her. But I just can't support, even if some people would do well with an IV infusion of C or whatever they give people these days,
Yeah.
I can't put it out there as though I'm standing behind it because some people will be harmed by that.
That's exactly right. Another one in that topic is the NAD. A lot of people are doing
Yes.
IV NAD or oral or liposomal. It's all the rage right now. But if you have genetic variants in the NDUFUS gene, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah. So it is very much no one size fits all.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just say that again? NDUFUS. I just love the name of that gene.
I love that one. That's my favorite one.
Tell us again what NDUFUS does.
I'll show you. It's fun. Oh, it's over here. This NDUFUS. It's part of the energy production pathways. And so its job is to break down NAD and NADH, FADH, and transport it into the electron transport chain to make energy. But if you've got a block right there, right below the NADH, you're going to back up that whole pathway and cause problems. So it's you got to know what you're doing before you start saying all people should.
Yeah.
If they don't have an NDUFUS gene or any of these three here blocking those pathways, then NAD can be very beneficial. But why are you not making it? That's again back to that.
You're always back to that. Yeah.
I'm always back to that. I want the body to make it. And usually it's not, let's not take that as a supplement. Everybody gets excited about the new supplement. But really, when you fine tune the body and you give it the exact right nutrients you need, it's vitamins. It's the old stuff. It's vitamin A, the B vitamins and C and D that upregulate the body. Turns out the body runs on vitamins, minerals, amino acids, carbs, fats, proteins, air, water. That's it.
No wine. You're not putting wine in there. I don't like you anymore.
Well, now, should I put that in there? Maybe that's in
No, because there's not one answer for everybody. Not everybody should have wine.
right. I'm not one of the
I know you're one of those
wine department.
non-wine.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Wine deprived.
I did have a cranberry wine the other day that I was fine with it. It was good. It was tart. As long as you don't expect it to taste like wine.
Real wine.
Yeah. It was like, oh.
It wasn't sweet. A lot of times those berry wines are very sweet to me.
No, it was very tart. But not so tart that you couldn't drink it, but it was good. I liked it.
Is that an Ohio specialty?
No.
Oh.
Somewhere along the way. I don't know where I am these days because I've been traveling so long.
She's a road warrior this summer.
Wow. Yeah. 6 weeks now on the road.
Your MAO gene for travel is wearing down, I can tell.
It's wearing down. Yep. Yeah.
You'll be home soon.
Yep.
All right, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed another episode of Q&A with Dr. J, and we will be back next week.
You got a kitty in your lower left.
I do have a kitty. You know, there's always a kitty somewhere.
Hey, kitty.
She's a cutie pie. All right, everybody. We will see you again next week. Thank you, Dr. J.
Thanks, GC. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.